bet this lion roars.
Have you ever looked at all the gear musicians use and wonder, how does it all work? My name's Dustin, and my family and I are setting out on a quest to inspire both adult and kid musicians to create new sounds together and learn all about what it takes to produce great music. We'd like to invite you along on the journey as we explore the gear professional studios, musicians, and hobbyists use to create their art. We'll take a close-up look at the gear and ask,
What's this button do?
Hi everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of What's This Button Do? I'm your host, Dustin, and today I am absolutely thrilled. We're going to be looking at one of the coolest pedals, and might be the coolest pedal that was released this year. And I am talking about the Universal Audio Lion pedal. Now, fans of the show will know I have been a big fan of all the new Universal Audio pedals, and I am not a big digital emulation guy. I prefer analog pedals 9 times out of 10. But what Universal Audio has been doing over the last year and a half with these new amp emulation pedals is so fantastic, because they can be combined with an amplifier to allow you a versatility of sound. So you can have one amplifier that can sound like a Vox, that can sound like a Fender, that can sound like an old, cranked Fender, that can sound like a Marshall amp now. There's just so much you can do with these pedals, and it truly, truly works. But the thing that they didn't have until now was that Marshall-y lead sound. I've tried all the pedals out, and I could never really find that sound. The Vox Ruby got pretty close to some of that breakup, but again, it's more chimey, more traditional Vox sound. So when I heard that the Lion was coming out, I got super excited, ordered one immediately. It came in last night, and I sat down with it, and I recorded the session, and I just want you to hear some of the basic entry-level sounds. Again, I've only had this for about 12 hours, but it was so awesome, I had to let you hear it. So let's hop over to the pedal board, and I'll let you hear how it sounds. All right, everyone, today we are going to be using the Rock and Roll Relics Chinese Rocks Johnny Thunders model, and the clean sound sounds like this. Just a really nice rock and roll clean. And I've got our pedal set up right now. I'm going to move this up here on channel 1. The way that the Lion works is you've got 6 knobs here to mess with that actually do 9 different things. So we're going to walk through each one of them. The first 2 are the treble and the bass channel, so that those are the volumes, just like on an old Marshall amp. And for those of you who have not played a Plexi or any of the old 1978 Marshalls, they had this magic thing going for them. They had 2 channels on them, and they had 4 inputs. And what old guitarists would do was stick their first input from their guitar into the amp, and then they would take a patch cable and they would run it from the second output into the input on the second channel. And what that would do was allow you to merge the 2 channels together and create this really cool cascaded, loud, rocky gain sound that was really, really neat. And it allowed you to mix the 2 channels together. You could even do that for cleans. So they've simulated that on this pedal. When we have one of these turned down, we're basically just using the channel that's turned up. When we start mixing the 2 together, it acts like you're jumpering those 2 channels together. So really, really cool feature. The third one over here is a master volume. So this is your master level output. That'll come into play in a second. When I start the demo here, I'm going to be playing through my amp over here, and then we'll switch over to direct toward the end of the demo. Down here you have 3 pedals. They start out as a basic EQ. You've got a bass, a middle, and a treble EQ. Nothing fancy there. Those do exactly what they sound like. Just a nice EQ built into the pedal. And then you've got these 3 switches in the middle. The first one is a cabinet simulator. This is for when you're running direct into your interface. We'll talk about that in a little bit. We're not going to use that right now. We're going to leave it turned off. The middle position here, this is actually a switch that allows you to change what these things do down here. If we go up to the amp settings, it changes our EQ to being 3 different things. You get a room, you get a presence. The room actually gives you kind of like an ambience, like a little bit of a sweetener, if you will. The presence knob is just like the presence on the old amps. The more you turn it up, the more it cuts through the mix a little bit and tweaks some of those highs in the mid ranges. And then the treble knob becomes a boost, and this is like a boost pedal built into the pedal itself. Very, very cool. And I'll show you how all that works in a second. But we're just going to leave them kind of in the middle mode for right now, just to be safe. So I'm just going to set these all right here, and then I'm going to switch back to amp, okay? Now, the last thing is there's a little switch here, because this pedal actually is 3 different amplifiers in one. What Universal Audio has done here is emulated 3 of the most popular Marshall amplifiers of all time. The first one is based on an old 100-watt super bass amp. That is one of the coolest amps. It's got this thick, chunky sound. Think of like hardcore rock, like Tool, giving you that really, really killer sound, like that deeper bassy bottom end. And then they also have a 1968 Super Lead amp. This is one of the most popular amps of all time. Everybody played this back in the day, and that's one of the most sought after sounds of all time. And then the Brown sound has kind of got that classic rock tone, and they added a little variac power in there. They made all sorts of little circuit tweaks to it. So it's a really, really cool sound. We'll show you all 3 of them. I'm going to start off in the bass side, and we'll just kind of switch through them as we go. So first off, I want to show you how the pedal sounds in the clean. So let's start off with our clean treble side, okay? I turn it on. Hear just a little bit of a treble boost there, not much. But you can hear it's a really nice clean. If we turn it up just a little past noon, that's when we start introducing gain. Right away when I do that, you can start to hear the sound of what would be a power tube breakup, kind of like a preamp tube breakup. This is what Universal Audio has emulated so well. Listen to this. Such a beautiful tone. Remember, this is my clean. All the way up. Really, really cool. But kind of trebly, kind of heavy on the treble. So now what we can do is kind of do the exact same thing with the bass side. We're going to leave our treble up to right about here. And now watch what happens as we bring up the bass tone. Bring them up together. So really, 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 really cool. But there's so much more that we can do because we've just started there. Now what we can do is let's mess with these alternative sounds, right? Because there's a lot we can do with that as well. Let's take the alt mode here. And sorry, that's my dog in the background, decided to join us for this filming and make lots of noise. Apollo, go away. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to take this alt mode, and I'm going to bring the presence up a little bit so it starts to cut through the mix. I'm going to turn my boost to about 1 o'clock, and I'm going to let you hear what this room mode does. So let's turn this back on See, it's not affecting the signal a ton, but it just gives you this little bit of extra clarity. I like to run this right about the 2 o'clock mark. It really lets your notes bloom. And when you hold a note, you'll start to hear that kind of almost tube chime mix in. It's really, really cool. Let's do the same thing with the presence now. I'm going to turn the presence all the way down. Really cool, and you can hear it, again, not a massive amount of change, but that presence allows you to cut through a mix a little bit more. This, in an old amp, could be very overbearing. A lot of people couldn't get it past about 2 or 3, or it would really just hurt your ears, and that was really the problem with those old Marshalls. They were so loud. people would go deaf playing those. So having this little box where you can control the sound level so that you're not making yourself go deaf, that to me in and of itself is worth the price of admission. Not to mention these amps are thousands of dollars and this is a few $100. So absolutely killer, 100%. I absolutely love it. Now, last but not least, let's move the treble, or we're going to move the room back a little bit. We're going to move the presence back toward the middle. And then now we're bringing this boost up. I'm going to show you. I'm going to have this all the way down. So did you hear that? It kind of introduces almost a fuzz element. When you get above about the 1 o'clock position, you start to create this kind of fuzzy tone that adds a little more grit, a little more character. Kind of reminds me of playing an old vintage fuzz in front of a Marshall. So there's a lot of variance in that. Where the other two don't affect your tone that much, the boost can really affect your tone. So you really got to play with that, dial it in the way that you really, really want it. So let's move that right about here. And then once we've got our position set, we go back to the amp mode. Now we can move these knobs freely and we're not affecting what we just set up. That's going to store whatever we set in the alt mode. Those are in there. So now anything we do to our EQ is not going to mess with that. So let's turn on our EQ. Let's find a nice position here. Favorite. Now watch what's happening here. I'm going to roll my guitar volume back. One of the problems I've always found with these emulator pedals is they don't usually play nice with other pedals. So let's try it. I'm going to turn on a wah down here underneath me. Let's try it with that. Abso-stinkin-lutely awesome. All right, now let's switch over and we'll go direct in and let's hear how that sounds. Okay, so we're gonna have some fun now. What I've done is I've shut off all my amps, unplugged the pedal, and I've taken and run the outs on the pedal straight into my camera. So I'm coming from my guitar to the pedal and then straight into the camera. There's no post-processing. There's nothing else. You're gonna just hear the raw sound coming straight out of the pedal. Now, when I first turn it on, remember, we haven't used the cabinet switch yet. So when I first turn it on, it's gonna sound terrible. Ugh. Yeah, no good. because you don't have anything emulating that cabinet, so it's not like we were running it through an amp. It doesn't hear the sounds that you would hear when you're coming through an amp. So what they've got is this little switch right here, and when we flick it down, you'll see a little red light come on. Now, when you first buy the pedal, there's 3 cabinets that are programmed into this. When you register your pedal online, which anytime you buy a universal audio pedal, let me just give you a cheap trick. Register your pedals, because they always, when you get a firmware update, it gives you lots of new settings, and usually there's some hidden features. So on this pedal, you go from 3 to 6 cabinets on here that are already installed in here. So I'm going to flip through them and just let you hear what that happened, or what's happened. So I'm going to start with the fuzz. See how much different that sounds? Real quick, I'm going to pause there. Did you hear that? That sounded like tube chime. And like I said, there's no tubes in this. We're running this directly into the camera. That sounded like a tube shaking a little bit. Just crazy. Let's go to the next one. Hear that? And the last one. I'm going to go up to that first one again. Let's give it a little more gain. How gorgeous is that? That is direct from the pedal. And now I'm going to roll the volume down on my guitar. Hear how that cleans up? I mean, everything about that sounds absolutely natural, like you were playing through an amp. I hope that comes across in the camera as amazing as that sounds right now, because wow, what a sound. I'm so impressed. I can't even begin to tell you how cool that is. So let's try one last thing. I'm going to just give it a bass mode real quick, and let's hear how that sounds. Sold. Take my money. I hope that camera recording did that justice. The sound that I was hearing in the room, this just bloom of notes, it was absolutely insane for an emulation pedal. I've played a lot of the different emulators out there. I've tried out that new Fender Tone Master. I've tried out a Neural, tried out the Helix. It's fine. They're fine. But to be able to emulate that tube breakup and that natural ringing sound and to let your notes bloom like that, it is absolutely insane. An article came out online the other day that just I 100% agree with, but they were interviewing the Edge from U2, and he is a notorious analog effect man. Like he's one of my heroes. The man plays with more pedals than I do, which is ridiculous. But he said at their Vegas gig, because they have so much cabling and so much stuff going on, so much electronic interference, he has switched to using the universal audio pedals live. And I do not doubt it. I really think that's probably the closest thing. Is it the same as having a tube amp? Absolutely not. No, I'm still going to use a tube amp. And honestly, I love using these pedals in conjunction with a tube amp to really make that sound shine. But if you're in need of a direct recording tool, you don't have an amp, maybe you're in a situation where you have to be silent in an apartment and you have to record direct into your interface, I cannot think of a better option than these pedals. And really, I can't think of a better option than the Lion. You heard how good it sounds clean. You heard how good it sounds dirty. That thing is just nuts. It is such a good pedal. 100% slam dunk. Again, I am not sponsored by Universal Audio. I paid full price for this pedal. I am just so excited about this. I wanted to share that with you today. Well, next week we're going to be trying out another emulation pedal that I got in at the same time as the Lion. It's called the Two Notes Opus. We'll be going over that next week. So join us then. We're going to take a look at it, do a little deep dive on it, and see how it sounds. So I'll let you know all about that next week. As always, I want to thank my friends at Palen for having me do this show. I really appreciate all your support and your help. I'm hoping maybe they'll be picking this up too. I'm not sure if they're going to have it in stock or not, but I'll put a little link down to their website down below so you guys can go check that out and give them a follow. And I am going to be posting a lot over the next couple of months on my Instagram. I've got a ton of really cool gear coming in, some new guitars from Fidelity that I'm really excited about. So I'll be posting them over on my Instagram page. So please give me a like over there if you happen to be on Instagram. It's What's This Button Do Dustin. Come see some of the fun stuff that we've got going on over there as well. Well, thank you so much for